In a surprising and bold move, three of the most influential voices from different corners of British society have come together in an unexpected alliance. Nigel Farage, the political firebrand, Douglas Murray, the sharp-witted intellectual, and Rowan Atkinson, the legendary comedian. This all-new partnership has left many speculating about what such a unique collaboration could mean. With Farage's controversial political views, Murray's fierce commentary on cultural issues, and Atkinson's satirical brilliance, their combined influence has the potential to reshape conversations across politics, media, and public discourse in ways no one could have predicted. This partnership truly changes everything.
So this is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with the original aim of the gay rights movement, which was just to get to equality and stop. These people find it really hard to stop.
And I mean, J.K. Rowling, who hardly is a political controversialist, and yet has sort of faced quite a degree of hatred over this.
The same thing. All of these things are interconnected. I say in the chapter about gay is a minority issue. Relations between men and women is a majority issue. Certainly used to be. And relations between men and women cannot be as divisive as they've been made in recent years. I say there, though, you see, what we've got this problem with is what happens when the feminists have won.
You know, I doubt that he will reappear, but you never know. You must never.
The people have spoken.
Yeah, quite quiet.
Nigel Farage has long been known as one of the most outspoken political figures in the United Kingdom, rising to prominence as the leader of the UK Independence Party, UKIP. Farage was instrumental in leading the charge for Brexit, a seismic political shift that redefined Britain's relationship with the European Union and reverberated across global politics.
Perhaps been a fairer country in terms of race than parts of the USA. I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, I mean, look, I can't stand the tearing down of statues, mob rule. And we saw that extraordinary picture the other day of a woman innocently sitting outside a restaurant, being surrounded by a mob. And it was compared to 1933 in Germany, and people being made to raise their right arm in support of the Führer. I mean, so we've seen all of that. But does the Black Lives Matter movement in America, does it need to exist in some form?
So, all of these rights claims start somewhere decent, which is a request for equality. Now, I entirely agree, by the way. America and Britain are very different countries, and I resent the importing of a specific American racial issue to the British context, for instance. I was brought up in a Britain that was very diverse already. We didn't know about people's skin colours. We didn't notice it. We were brought up to who cared. We were. Of course, there were some people who've had experiences of racism.
It has what we might call a global outreach. Yeah, I can't go to many places where you're not recognised. And it's the thing I find most tricky is when people don't recognise you particularly, but half recognise you. You know, it's that strange thing of where they go.
Farage's unapologetic advocacy for British sovereignty and his disdain for what he views as the overreach of globalist institutions have made him a polarizing figure. Loved by many for standing up to the political establishment, he's equally reviled by others who see his populist rhetoric as divisive.
How, and I agree with you on that, how is it that within a nanosecond, the death of George Floyd in America becomes huge, organised, and it looks like quite well-funded protests in this country? How did that happen?
Well, it's the same story. Again, in the case of America, there is a specific racial issue which that country has been struggling to address for a long time. You get something like the death of George Floyd, and by the way, I think everyone has to be really careful about this. The cop in question has no defenders, you know? Nobody thinks that arresting cop and again, it's never mentioned, but it's like a diverse group of people who he was working with. Nobody defends what they did that day. Black Lives Matter as an organisation...
Would you defend it?
What he did?
Yeah.
No. Okay. No, I mean, you know, the arresting officer clearly did it as badly as anyone could. We will, I suppose, find out at his trial whether there was a racial component to it or not. But as my friend Sam Harris pointed out, every year in the United States there are 10 million interactions between the police and the citizenry, the most armed citizenry, as you know, in the world. And so there are difficulties in American policing which we shouldn't underestimate. The idea, though, that you respond to it by saying all of the American police are racist, or all of America is racist, and then much worse, oh, Britain is racist, and then all of Britain's past is racist, and then there's nothing good to be said for a country like this.
How did it explode as quickly?
Because they were primed and ready and waiting to go.
Yeah.
This is a movement that needs martyrs. It seeks martyrdoms. It has given us already false martyrdoms. We had the shooting in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014.
Nonetheless, Farage thrives on controversy. He has consistently voiced opinions that challenge the status quo and has never hesitated to engage in debates on immigration, nationalism, and the future of the UK. His brash and direct style made him a political maverick, unafraid of causing ripples in the system.
They stare a lot, and they just look. You're sort of feeling, I wish that person wouldn't stare at me, so, I'd rather just, hold up a flag saying, yes, yes, it's me. A few years ago, there was, I was in a Land Rover parts department near Peterborough, the kind of place you find me on most.
Yes.
This is one of the main things that starts the Black Lives Matter movement. It's claimed that the man who was shot had his hands in the air and said, hands up, don't shoot. This is what Black Lives Matter protesters used to say. At the subsequent trial, it turned out, and even BLM ended up basically admitting it, they didn't admit it, they just dropped it, that the man in question didn't have his hands in the air. He was lunging for the arresting officer's gun when he was shot. And that is the sort of thing that gets you shot in American policing. They were looking for martyrs.
And they were ready and organised in the UK as well.
Yes, and the crucial thing is, we have allowed in Britain, as in America, but in Britain, as we say, with much less cause, we have allowed a movement to be gestating away.
And he came up to me after a while and he said, excuse me, has anyone ever told you that you're the absolute spitting image of that Mr. Bean?
Douglas Murray, on the other hand, is an intellectual powerhouse with a sharp and often caustic critique of the cultural shifts in Western society. As an author, commentator, and speaker, Murray has carved out a space for himself in debates surrounding free speech, identity politics, and Western civilization.
That has in its sights everything in our history. There's two generations in America who have been taught that America is the worst country in the world. They're not taught that it has flaws like all countries. They don't know, by the way, about any other country. I mean, the staggering ignorance of so many people who are the ones, by the way, at the moment, who always say, educate yourself. You need to educate yourself. These are always the most ignorant people you can come across. But the educate yourself brigade know nothing about the world. They've never been anywhere. They can't compare American civilization with any other civilization. They think that America's the only country that ever had slavery. Every civilization in the world had slavery. They think that Britain is to be defined by slavery. They don't even know that this country tore itself apart over the slavery debate centuries ago, and it cost us, and we paid the price.
And 50 years, the Royal Navy, the West Africa Squadron, driving slavery off the high seas.
We paid the price for this because we thought morally it was a price worth paying. And these people now come along and say to an ignorant generation, you don't need to know about that.
So you must never say never, but there does come a point when you feel as though you've done most of what you want to do with him. So.
And because it's not based on language, because it's so physical, Mr. B, presumably it's popular.
But surely not in those circles of the media and business.
Now, in the circles of the media and business, we're dealing with another phenomenon. We're dealing with cowardice. Cowardice. Being called a racist is about the worst thing you can be called in our society. Some people say, well, clearly it's not because you survive after I've called you a racist. No, it isn't. It is about the nastiest thing you can say. It's also, by the way, and I've written about this in the past, one of the fascinating things about it is it's impossible to prove. There is no agreed upon definition, and it is impossible to disprove.
Of course.
Because, of course, we have had in this country for 20 years the idea that it's all in the eye of the beholder. So that if you think it's racist, ergo it is racist. This is an incredibly damaging thing for a society. Now, this
He is often at odds with mainstream liberal thinkers, arguing that Western values are under attack from within. His critiques of woke culture, gender ideology, and the radical left have garnered him a strong following. But like Farage, Murray's forthrightness has made him a contentious figure. In a recent and unexpected revelation, Robin McGraw, the wife of famed television personality Dr. Phil, has brought to light some shocking details that have left many stunned. Known for her role as a supportive partner and for her own ventures in the wellness industry, Robin McGraw has generally maintained a private life despite her husband's immense public presence. However, during a candid discussion, she opened up about a deeply personal and previously undisclosed aspect of her life that has now captured widespread attention. This revelation not only sheds light on the challenges she's faced behind the scenes, but also adds a new dimension to the public's understanding of the couple's long-standing marriage.
What's the issue?
Well, Steve, he's got a mistress.
Oh.
And let me just say this one thing about her. She is a real bitch. I brought some proof.
Dr. Phil McGraw, the television personality known for his straightforward advice and no-nonsense approach, has built a brand that resonates with millions. His long-running show, Dr. Phil, has brought countless personal and family issues to light, offering a platform for individuals to seek help and share their stories. But behind the scenes, there's a story that has remained largely untold until now. Robin McGraw, Dr. Phil's wife of many years, has typically maintained a supportive yet quieter role in comparison to her husband's public persona. However, recent events have changed that narrative, bringing Robin to the forefront in a way that few expected. Robin McGraw has always been more than just the woman beside Dr. Phil. She's an author, entrepreneur, and advocate in her own right, with a particular focus on issues of domestic violence and women's health. Over the years, she has cultivated her own following, particularly through her books and her lifestyle brand, which emphasize self-care and empowerment. But while Robin has always projected an image of strength and resilience, recent revelations have shown that her journey has not been without its challenges. The couple's marriage, spanning over 4 decades, has been a subject of public interest ever since Dr. Phil first rose to fame. Their relationship, often highlighted on the show, has been portrayed as one built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. Dr. Phil has frequently credited Robin with being his rock, supporting him through the ups and downs of his career. Yet, as with any long-term relationship, there have been struggles, some of which have only recently come to light. Robin McGraw recently shared a deeply personal account of her life that had remained hidden from the public eye. In a candid discussion, she revealed that she had undergone significant challenges, including a major health scare that she had kept private for many years. Robin disclosed that she had undergone surgery to correct a condition known as ptosis, a medical issue that causes the eyelid to droop, impairing vision and affecting appearance. While the surgery itself was successful, Robin shared that the decision to undergo the procedure was not an easy one, and it brought to the surface a range of emotions tied to self-image and aging. For years, Robin had faced scrutiny from the public and the media, with rumors circulating about potential cosmetic procedures. Despite the speculation, Robin remained silent, choosing not to address the whispers that followed her. However, her recent decision to speak openly about her surgery was driven by a desire to set the record straight and to encourage others to feel empowered to make decisions about their own health and well-being without fear of judgment. Robin's decision to share her story has resonated with many, particularly women who face similar pressures related to aging and appearance. In a society that often places undue emphasis on physical appearance, Robin's openness about her journey has been both refreshing and inspiring. She has used her platform to not only dispel myths about her own life, but also to start a broader conversation about the importance of self-care and the right to make personal health decisions without stigma. This revelation has also added a new layer to the public's understanding of the McGraw's marriage. Dr. Phil, known for his strong opinions and advice on relationships, has often spoken about the importance of communication and honesty in a partnership. Robin's decision to reveal such a personal part of her life publicly has highlighted the depth of their relationship and the trust that exists between them. It has also shown that despite the challenges they have faced, the couple remains committed to supporting each other through thick and thin. Beyond the personal implications, Robin's story has had a ripple effect, prompting discussions about the pressures faced by public figures, particularly women, in maintaining a certain image. The scrutiny that comes with fame can be relentless, and for someone like Robin, who has been in the public eye for so long, the pressure to appear a certain way can be overwhelming. Her decision to address these issues head-on has not only been a powerful statement of self-acceptance, but also a call to others to embrace their own journeys, regardless of what others may think. Robin's revelation about her surgery is not the only challenge she has faced in her life. In interviews, she has also spoken about the difficulties of balancing her own identity with the demands of being married to a high-profile figure like Dr. Phil. While their relationship has always been one of mutual respect, Robin has had to navigate the complexities of maintaining her own sense of self while being part of a public couple. Robin McGraw's journey is a testament to the strength that comes from facing challenges head-on and the courage it takes to be vulnerable in the public eye. By sharing her personal struggles, she has not only dispelled misconceptions, but also inspired countless others to embrace their own stories with honesty and self-acceptance. Her openness has added a deeper dimension to the public's understanding of her life with Dr. Phil, highlighting the resilience and authenticity that define her. As Robin continues her advocacy and empowers others through her story, she has firmly established herself as a significant figure in her own right, proving that true strength lies in embracing both our struggles and our triumphs. Her story has deepened the public's understanding of her life with Dr. Phil, revealing the depth of their partnership and the strength that comes from facing difficulties together. As Robin continues her advocacy and empowers others through her experiences, she has firmly established herself as a significant and influential figure in her own right. Tensions flared during what was supposed to be a routine discussion between former President Donald Trump and Fox News host Sean Hannity. Instead, the conversation took an unexpected turn, spiraling into an awkward on-stage clash that left audiences buzzing. The viral moment has sparked widespread discussion, with many questioning the dynamic between the longtime allies. Let's dive into the details of this uncomfortable exchange and what it could mean for their relationship moving forward.
Trump, everybody, now I'm not saying it, but he said it because I'd rather say respect, but he said everybody was afraid of Trump. You bring him back, you're not going to have any problems. It's all going to go away. The world is blowing up. The world is blowing up.
The tension between Donald Trump and Sean Hannity has always been a point of interest for both supporters and critics alike. Known for their strong alliance, their relationship seemed almost unbreakable throughout Trump's presidency. Hannity, a Fox News host, often served as a vocal supporter of Trump. Jordan Peterson just dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming, exposing critical points that everyone else missed in the debate. Known for his sharp intellect and deep analysis, Peterson's insights have left people questioning what they thought they understood about the discussion. His breakdown reveals gaps in logic, overlooked arguments, and underlying issues that completely change the narrative. As the world reacts to his eye-opening take, it's clear that Peterson has once again shifted the conversation in a way only he can.
I was just watching a congressman from the U.S. today claiming that the critics of Biden after the last debate are ableist.
Yeah.
In a highly anticipated debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Both came prepared to defend their records and attack their opponent's vision for the future. The encounter was full of real, impactful moments that hadn't been seen before, delivering a memorable exchange that left both their supporters and critics with much to dissect. The debate began with the topic of leadership and accountability. Harris wasted no time bringing up the COVID-19 pandemic and Trump's handling of it. She criticized the chaotic response under his administration, highlighting the staggering death toll and the miscommunication around public health measures.
It doesn't matter whether the President of the United States is able, because all discrimination between being able and unable is a form of prejudice. And that even applies with regards to the President of the United States. And so that means that all the people who are concerned that there might be something astray with him cognitively, that we're being lied to about at a level that's almost inconceivable.
Harris emphasized how the Biden administration had worked to repair the damage by accelerating vaccine distribution and rebuilding trust in science and health institutions. She drove home the point that lives were lost due to negligence, framing the debate as a matter of life and death that shouldn't be ignored. Trump fired back, defending his administration's handling of the pandemic. He claimed that without his quick action to close borders and push Operation Warp Speed, the pandemic's toll would have been far worse. Trump emphasized the rapid development of the vaccine under his administration, calling it a historical achievement. He argued that the economy was roaring back because of his initial policies and accused the Biden administration of unnecessarily prolonging lockdowns, damaging businesses, and creating inflation. Trump tried to paint Harris as part of an administration that was harming American workers. The economy, always a centerpiece in Trump's platform, was another flashpoint.
I just finished a book, which is going to be published in November, and I walked through a sequence of biblical stories trying to explain what they meant psychologically. And I spent some time on the book of Exodus for obvious reasons. And there's a commandment in there that people misapprehend. So I think it's the third commandment. Don't use God's name. Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain. And people think that means don't swear or curse. And it sort of means that. There's a peripheral meaning that is associated with that casual use of the sacred, let's say. But that isn't what it means.
Trump highlighted the economic boom before the pandemic, citing record low unemployment, deregulation, and tax cuts that, according to him, spurred growth. He argued that the Biden-Harris policies were burdening businesses with unnecessary regulation and higher taxes, making it harder for the middle class to thrive. Trump turned to Harris and asked pointedly, "How do you expect to help the American people by taxing them more in a time when they need relief?" Harris, not backing down, laid out the Biden administration's approach to economic recovery, saying that the economy Trump touted had left too many people behind. She argued that the tax cuts primarily benefited the wealthiest Americans and corporations, further widening income inequality. Harris explained how the Biden administration was working to rebuild a more equitable economy with investments in infrastructure, green energy, and technology designed to create jobs for the future. She countered Trump's tax argument, saying that his policies failed the working class and that a more balanced approach was necessary to ensure long-term prosperity. Healthcare quickly became one of the debate's most heated issues. Harris fiercely defended the Affordable Care Act, ACA, and discussed the Biden administration's efforts to lower prescription drug costs and expand coverage. She accused Trump of relentlessly attacking the ACA during his presidency without offering a viable alternative, putting millions of Americans' healthcare at risk. People's lives are on the line when they can't afford to see a doctor or fill a prescription. You had 4 years to fix it, and you made it worse, Harris said, driving home the point that the Trump administration's healthcare approach was disastrous. Trump, as expected, pushed back hard, criticizing the ACA as a disaster. He argued that Obamacare made healthcare more expensive for many Americans and reduced the quality of care. Trump suggested that a market-based solution would allow more competition and drive down prices. He continued to tout his efforts to bring transparency to hospital pricing and lower prescription drug costs, saying his policies worked for everyday Americans. He framed Harris as someone who supported a government takeover of healthcare, which he claimed would limit choice and increase costs. On foreign policy, the clash between the two candidates was equally sharp. Trump touted his administration's peace deals in the Middle East, negotiations with North Korea, and the tough stance on China. He described himself as a leader who took bold steps to put America first, focusing on economic and military power to ensure the U.S. remained strong on the global stage. Trump took credit for reducing American involvement in costly wars, saying that he kept his promise to bring troops home while protecting American interests abroad. Harris, however, called Trump's foreign policy reckless and dangerous. She argued that his unpredictable actions, particularly his cozying up to authoritarian leaders, undermined America's moral standing and long-term security. Harris emphasized the importance of diplomacy, partnerships with allies, and a stable approach to international relations. She highlighted the Biden administration's focus on rebuilding relationships with NATO and re-engaging with global challenges like climate change and nuclear proliferation. Our allies didn't know where America stood under your leadership, and that made us weaker, not stronger, Harris charged. Perhaps the most explosive moment of the debate came when Harris turned the discussion toward the January 6th Capitol riot. She directly called out Trump for his role in inciting the violence, stating that his refusal to accept the results of a democratic election posed a threat to the very foundation of the country. The American people deserve better than a leader who fuels division and lies about our democratic process, Harris said, looking directly at Trump as she spoke. Trump didn't back down, continuing to question the integrity of the 2020 election. Despite the lack of evidence supporting his claims of widespread voter fraud, he reiterated his belief that election reforms were needed to secure the process, portraying himself as a champion of election integrity. However, Harris didn't let up, insisting that Trump's rhetoric had directly endangered lives and undermined democracy itself. Throughout the debate, the contrast between Harris's methodical approach to policy and Trump's instinct for the big, headline-grabbing moment was clear. Harris tried to steer the conversation back to specifics and policies, framing herself as a leader focused on real solutions. She positioned herself as someone who understood the complexities of governance and the need for competent, steady leadership. Trump, meanwhile, focused on connecting with his base by painting himself as the anti-establishment figure still fighting against Washington elites. He worked to energize his supporters by framing Harris as part of a political machine that doesn't understand or represent everyday Americans. David Muir just exposed a critical detail that everyone else missed during the debate, and it's causing quite a stir. Known for his sharp journalism and keen eye for the truth, Muir's latest revelation has shed new light on a key moment that went unnoticed by many. His insight is sparking widespread discussion, as people are now questioning what really happened during the debate. Muir's findings could change the narrative entirely, and the fallout from this exposure is bound to make waves.
ABC is a disgrace. I think having Donna Brazile sitting on that panel, and she's the one that gave the answers and the questions to Hillary Clinton before a debate. I think ABC should be shut out.
The hypothetical debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump would undoubtedly be a high-stakes and highly anticipated political event. Both figures are known for their strong personalities, sharp rhetoric, and ability to captivate audiences, making this matchup a potential flashpoint in the political landscape. Such a debate would be marked by stark contrasts in policy, leadership style, and vision for the future of the country. From the outset, the tension between the two would be palpable. Kamala Harris, as the vice president and former senator from California, brings a reputation for being a skilled prosecutor, someone who is well-versed in debate tactics and can easily dissect arguments with precision. Her calm demeanor, combined with her sharp questioning style, would be on full display as she addresses Trump's policies, character, and record during his presidency. Donald Trump, the former president and a master of commanding the stage, would come into the debate with his signature style, bold, direct, and often unpredictable. Trump has always thrived in environments where he can energize his base by delivering fiery lines and pushing back aggressively against his opponents. His approach is often less about specifics and more about creating memorable moments, appealing to emotions, and framing the debate in terms of his vision of strength and leadership. The opening moments of the debate would likely see each candidate laying out their vision for America. Harris would emphasize the successes of the Biden administration, particularly focusing on issues such as pandemic recovery, infrastructure investment, and the administration's efforts to restore global alliances. She would stress the importance of steady leadership, unity, and policies aimed at lifting up working families with a particular focus on healthcare, education, and climate change. Trump, on the other hand, would likely frame the debate around the idea of America first. He would critique the Biden administration for what he views as failures in economic policy, energy independence, and foreign affairs. Trump would argue that his presidency saw the strongest economy in recent memory before the COVID-19 pandemic, and would highlight his administration's efforts to deregulate industries, reduce taxes, and confront China. He would likely contrast his leadership style as strong and decisive compared to what he would frame as a weak and ineffective administration under Biden and Harris. One of the central flashpoints of the debate would almost certainly revolve around the economy. Harris would likely point to the Biden administration's efforts to pass major legislation aimed at revitalizing the economy after the pandemic, including relief packages and infrastructure spending that she claims have created jobs and rebuilt critical sectors. She would also likely focus on her work to promote equity in economic recovery, emphasizing how the administration has sought to help communities that have historically been left behind. Trump would respond by arguing that the economy under his administration was booming before the pandemic, and that his policies led to record low unemployment rates, particularly for minorities. He would claim that the Biden administration's policies are leading to inflation, higher taxes, and an economic slowdown. Trump would likely emphasize his belief in reducing government regulations and taxes as a way to stimulate economic growth, contrasting this with what he would describe as the Democrats' reliance on big government solutions. Another key point of contention would be healthcare. Harris would push for the administration's achievements in expanding healthcare access through the Affordable Care Act and its ongoing efforts to reduce prescription drug costs. She would frame the debate around the need for healthcare as a human right, likely promoting policies aimed at expanding coverage and reducing healthcare disparities, particularly for marginalized communities. Trump, however, would argue against government overreach in healthcare, promoting a more market-based approach. He would likely criticize the Affordable Care Act, reiterating his administration's attempts to dismantle it, though he may have to defend his lack of a clear replacement plan during his time in office. Trump would argue that his administration's policies, such as lowering drug prices and increasing competition in the healthcare market, were steps toward fixing a broken system. Foreign policy would also be a major topic, with Harris highlighting the Biden administration's efforts to restore America's position on the global stage. She would talk about rejoining international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and revitalizing relationships with NATO allies, framing the administration as one that believes in diplomacy and multilateralism. Harris would likely criticize Trump's approach to foreign relations, particularly his coziness with authoritarian leaders and his America First policy, which she might argue alienated the U.S. from key allies. Trump, as he often has in the past, would push back by emphasizing his administration's tough stance on China, his brokering of peace agreements in the Middle East, and his negotiations with North Korea. He would claim that his willingness to take unconventional approaches, such as meeting with Kim Jong-un or pulling out of international agreements like the Iran nuclear deal, were examples of bold leadership. Trump would likely paint the Biden administration's foreign policy as weak and ineffective, particularly in dealing with adversaries like Russia and China. One of the more personal and potentially explosive moments of the debate would likely come when discussing leadership styles and character. Harris would bring up the January 6th Capitol insurrection and Trump's role in inciting the violence that took place that day. She would argue that Trump's rhetoric and refusal to accept the results of the 2020 election posed a direct threat to democracy. Harris would frame herself as someone who values integrity, rule of law, and the importance of protecting democratic institutions. Trump, meanwhile, would likely continue to claim that the 2020 election was rigged or stolen, despite no evidence supporting those claims. He would pivot to discussing what he sees as the broader need for election security, focusing on his base's concerns about voter fraud. Trump would also use this moment to paint Harris and the Democrats as the ones undermining democracy, possibly bringing up issues like mail-in voting or the push to federalize election laws, which he might claim are efforts to give the Democrats an unfair advantage. Throughout the debate, there would be moments where both Harris and Trump try to appeal directly to their core supporters while attempting to sway undecided voters. Harris would present herself as a calm, collected leader who understands the challenges facing everyday Americans, using her experience as a prosecutor to dissect Trump's arguments and hold him accountable for his record. She would rely on facts, data, and policy specifics to make her case, particularly when discussing complex issues like healthcare, climate change, and criminal justice reform. Trump, on the other hand, would focus on his ability to connect with voters on an emotional level. He would likely use populist rhetoric, portraying himself as a fighter for the forgotten Americans and railing against what he sees as a corrupt political establishment. Trump's ability to create memorable moments, often through sharp jabs and unconventional tactics, would be on full display as he works to undermine Harris's points with his typical bravado. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing serious allegations that have raised eyebrows across the nation.